it forces people to jostle for position. And so when you're jostling for position, you're not really thinking about the outcome of the fallout, I should say.
Yeah.
And so typically the fallout is that there is no winner, including the children. And so if we are to look at how the family is now, we need to look at that definition of what a family is.
Right.
Because it's changed and it's shifted, and sometimes it's two dads, sometimes it's two moms.
I'm listening.
Sometimes we're dealing with grandma and grandpa. And so there are a lot of ways in which the court doesn't look at that as a valid family. And so I have been in some of the warmest gay homes that you could ever believe. Two people that I interviewed actually go to attend my church. And so he had to defend himself in his position during the height of homophobia.
Wow.
And so he spent an exorbitant amount of money because this is a man, a very well-educated man, who was able to afford getting, the attorney to defend himself. But a lot of the times what happens is, especially even when we're dealing with dads who are mid-level to low income, you then don't have that defense. And so it then leaves you in a particular predicament when it comes to your child.
Yeah.
And so the children are, what's best for the children is the end goal, in my mind. And so when we look at a system that makes people figure it out in statutes that they don't fully understand, because it's the only one place where you don't have a guaranteed attorney in this country. So when you navigate that system alone, you're left to a judge to decide whether or not you are good enough. And so if that judge has biases, if that judge has previous issues, if that judge doesn't see you, if he sees a stereotype, even if it's a mom. Sometimes we have this misnomer that moms are the perfect Stepford wife, and if they work, then they're not that perfect mom. That removes them from the family and makes them now look like an individual who doesn't love their children just as much as a mom who stays at home with them.
Gotcha.
And that's not the truth. And so what I believe is that in order to move the family forward, we have to change what the family court believes a family actually is.
Good message. And you said all of that sitting next to a powerful family law attorney. He did. So, Dr. Tard, what is your look at the state of the family right now?
Families are in crisis and in need of leadership. We assume that people know how to be a family, and that is a false assumption. You know, it used to be we could turn on the TV and watch The Cosby Show and be able to see a nuclear family, we see a number of different shows and see a nuclear family, be able to work it out. But now you don't see too many shows like that. You see even Blackish this year, there was the end was whether Dre and Bo were going to actually divorce as a way to talk about what's going on in families. So what I see is the families having less and less face time. All right. So there's less and less face time. We're actively spending time connecting with our kids, connecting with our husband, connecting with our wife. And families are roommating more than ever. When you ask couples, as psychologists, you ask them, what are your family rituals? They look at you like, what? All right. And so we see as society is It's progressing in culture, and technology is taking over, and how progressive that is, we're losing the essence of the family. Yeah. It used to be, we had Friday night fish night. My mom said, I don't care what's going on. You're going to be here between 6 and 7 o'clock. Whatever you want to do after that, we do fish night on Fridays. I was like, man, you're killing the football games. I'm just like, I have to rush home just to rush back. But that's when my dad was home, my mom was home, my brother was home, I was home, and we were all busy. So we need those rituals. Even departure rituals. Hey, have a good day, kiss on the cheek, having breakfast, morning prayer, evening prayer. Those rituals are what keep families together. And there are a lot of families that just do roommates. Okay? So mom cooks, mom's in her room, all right? Son comes down, gets the plate out of the refrigerator. He eats, he's watching Netflix, she's in her room, and they spend a lot of time together, but very little face time. All right, and I'll break that down, and then pass the mic. What I see, we're seeing a lot of kids, whether a father's involved in their life or not, is that they're complaining that they're just not getting enough time from their parents. Isn't that crazy?
Right.
It's because you think they want less time.
Yes.
But we're in a generation where kids are getting less intense presence from their parents than ever before. You can be in the house. And now we're on Instagram. Now we're on Facebook. Now we're watching Netflix. Now we're multitasking. Now we're on the phone. Now we're listening to Pandora. And they're in the room, but we couldn't tell you who their friends are. And so what kids want is they want 4 things. For one, they want someone to be present. All right, just show up. I see a lot of kids that don't have access to their dads. They just don't understand why you just don't show up. Yeah, you don't get along with my mom. You all broke up for whatever reason, but why are you not present in my life? Well, I see other kids whose dad broke up with them. They still come to the football game. They still come up to the school. They still go over dad's house on Wednesdays and every other Saturdays. Why can't I have that? And then 2, they need us to tune in. They need us to tune in without distraction. All right, that means that we need to sit down with our kids at least 15 minutes a day and ask what's going on in their world. No multitasking, no cooking, no repairing anything, no being on, typing a paper. No, just sit down with me and give me your undivided attention for at least 15 minutes a day and find out what's going on. We need to do that because when we sit down and we have without distractions, we have to get them. That's the 3rd step. Get me. Just understand I like to rap. Don't judge the fact that I rap. Understand why I like to rap. Like, for instance, my oldest daughter was flipping around the house. And I was like, yeah, one more flip before I'm going to flip you, out the door. All right? And what I didn't realize was that she had been inspired by Simone Biles from the Olympics and wanted to be a gymnast, so she was practicing her cartwheels. So when I'm calling hyper, she's trying to practice to get the technique because I didn't get her. Immediately we talked about it, and I signed her up for gymnastics lessons so we could keep the lamps upright in the house because the form was terrible, All right, and so there are a lot of kids out here that are gamers, a lot of kids that love video games, that love artificial intelligence, that like to draw, they want to play sports, but they're not, whatever their dreams are, they're not being supported because the parents don't sit down long enough to get them, to get just how difficult it is socially for a lot of kids, especially girls, to make quality friends. This generation is talking about they may have 2,000 friends on Instagram and Snapchat, but not 3 people that they would actually open up and share their feelings with that they feel will be there for them. All right, so incredibly lonely. So there are a lot of kids, if they have 2,000, 3,000 Instagram, Snapchat followers, but they can't list 3 friends who would be there for them that they spend consistent time with. And parents are seeing that. Kids stay in their room, they're on the headphones, and they're playing with strangers online. But friends going out, doing things that kids should do, very rare and declining. Matter of fact, even as adults, there was a new study out that said that the average number of friends adults report that they have has declined from 3 to 2. And that's because we think being friends with someone online is the same as seeing them. How many of you have seen someone in the hospital, you just send prayer hands to them? They prayer hands, hope you pray. Right. Do you know how terrible that feels? You're in the hospital and people used to come see you. Right. Now they're DMing you, now they're commenting in your feed, sending you prayer hands. Meanwhile, you're in the room like, man, who really cares about me? Yeah. All right, that's That's the generation. And then 4, we have to behave like we get them. So when we behave like we get people, and we understand that we support the gymnastics, we support the gaming, we support the fact that you're trying to rap. Maybe I don't like the lyrics, okay? Maybe I don't want to perpetuate, you know, black on black crime, whatever. But can we rap about something else? I like the lyrics. I like the fact that you're interested, you have a passion. But can we support your musical gift in a different way? And when we do that, I think we'll be all right.
And I like how you said that, because the example of praying hands, I sent out the reminder today to tell some people that I know personally to be here. And one lady responded and she said, you clearly didn't see my Facebook. And I said, no, I didn't. She said, I had a benign tumor and I had been in the hospital and I just had brain surgery last week. She put that on Facebook and thought everyone who cared about her saw it. On Facebook. And I promise you I didn't see it. And then she said, well, that makes sense to me now because you didn't reach out to me when I posted it on Facebook. And so I told her once the conference is over, I would follow up with her. But you're so right. People think people are connected to them on social media when they're actually not. And that was so interesting to me. And that just happened today. So I like the fact that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I want to pass it back, but you know, we only post the good parts of our life on Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we vent, but for the most part, we only post the pretty stuff on Facebook and Instagram. So people think that we're doing better than we really are because we're not connected. We don't see each other, and it looks like they're doing fine and you're doing well. But we frame the picture. The rest is a mess. But this picture look good. But I done gained 400 pounds.
Yeah,
my face
filters. Yeah, we got all these filters
and everything.
All this stuff. And I think that's part of the illusion of social media. So I want to go back to the statement that Attorney Tanya Mitchell-Graham talked about. I don't know if she wants to start again, but she talked about how entertainment is causing issues within the family unit. Can you break that down? And I know everyone up here has dealt with those in entertainment. That's why I'm going there.
Right, I understand. Well, you know, when I started practicing law in '92, my 2 areas were family law and entertainment law, primarily in the music business. Here in Atlanta, that was an oasis. It was like, hallelujah, good money. So it was great, but what I've noticed is that young people tend to act out what they hear and see. And so I call music, certain music, audio pornography.
Ooh.
And I just thought that, you know, I have 2 daughters who are 21 and 23. And the messages that they get from the music, the most popular music is that they could be one of 300 nightstands this year. This guy pulls, you know, 2 million girls from the stage, and if not you, next. And, you know, as a young woman, you know, so now you're in competition for men, and they don't really want you anyway. It's horrible. It's horrible. And look, but I like some of the music, but, you know, there's no diversity in it. Everything that is at the top of the playlist is the same derogatory music, which does not value women. And so that's hard. And so that makes young women, what I notice, act a certain way, dress a certain way, expose themselves a certain way to try to get the attention of a man. And that's unfortunate. The second thing is reality TV. I tell my daughters and other young adults, what you see on reality TV, please do not do, because you will be arrested. You cannot go to a restaurant and just turn out like that.
You
can't turn the table over like that in a restaurant and not leave in handcuffs. That is not a proper way to express, you know, a disagreement with someone. Whether that's, you know, in the relationships between black women on TV is horrible. We're always fighting over some man. That's not real life. You know, it's not positive, it's not productive. And I mean, I have cable, but I swear I just watch sports because, you know, I'm sick of, you know, politics. And regular TV is just a bunch of stuff that is not positive. It doesn't breathe life into anyone. And I'm such a positive, upbeat person that I don't want to be just denigrated with all the negativity. And so if the young people, if that's all they're listening to, that's all they're watching, you know, their behavior changes. Even, you know, I mean, I fought tooth and nail to, you know, raise my daughters a certain way, and I still got it. I mean, they're adults, and I'm still kind of got my thumb on them, like, you know, wait a minute, pull that back, you know, and, you know. But it's just, I just think that the powers that be who are in control of the content that is out here, they put a certain content out to keep people in a certain mindset. I mean, I'm going a little bit way far now, but I think that that's part of the problem with the family, the images that we see and the things that we hear, and we're surrounded by it. And if parents are not, you know, we're busy, we're multitasking, we're working, we're trying to take care of everything, and if we're not constantly reprogramming our young people, then they think a certain way that's just not positive, it's not life-giving, it's not loving, it's not conducive to what we need for a better future, and it's unfortunate, and we need to tackle that, I think.
We do, and let me say
in a collective effort.
You know, even when you bring up reality TV, and we're talking about the state of the family, most of those individuals on reality TV are fatherless and motherless. When you hear their stories, we're working to get a couple of them here this weekend, because some of them are going through trials, and I've watched a few of them step into a place of forgiveness. And I want people, because Atlanta values somehow those individuals, but that's what we're allowing to shape the state of the family on reality TV. So
Exactly. So I think that, you know, when we talk about the state of the family, we got to look at, you know, what we allow to influence our young people.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's harder now as a parent. You know, when my girls were younger, I had to watch, you know, what's on the TV and what's on the radio, you know, get the clean version of this. But now, you know, with social media, they're getting it from all sorts of other places. So that's why it's important and imperative as a parent to lay a proper foundation with the children, so that when they do go out and get these other images and things that they hear, that they can rightfully discern and decipher between, okay, I'll keep that information, that's good, that's positive, and that's junk. It might be entertainment, but it's junk.
Yeah. And let me say this too. Well, I can see one person on, but I see other people chiming in. See, people do not know, I'm like you, I have that 380-degree situation. People do not know I have a bonus child. And my bonus child is on here watching, so I do appreciate us having this conversation. She just graduated from college, just like your daughter, and headed to LA. She needs to hear this conversation. And so, Charity, thank you for tuning in, because this is a good conversation for you.
Wow. Entertainment, yeah. It's really unfortunate that entertainment is not. Okay, so full disclosure, I moved here from Trinidad. And so one of the things that happened when I first moved here was that, I guess, with a weird accent, quote unquote, back at the time, because that was before it was cool to, you know, to have the Trinity accent and know people and, you know, meet people and so, you know, TV became my friend. And so there were certain shows that I would watch that actually had a message and that had values and that had, you know, like I said, life lessons to learn. What I understand that is selling is clicks. And what is selling is the baller mentality.
Yes.
And so if you're seeking a baller, this takes us back to the provider-dependent system. You're essentially falling into that trap where you are looking for someone to take care of you if you're on one end of the spectrum. And if you are the baller, then you don't necessarily respect all that's coming at you, trying to achieve you, quote unquote, as the baller. So there's a way that it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that this provider-dependent system is specifically about money. And when we look at TV, we have Kim Kardashian as a superstar. Can anybody tell me what her talent or skill is?
Making money.
Oh, okay, got it.
I have an idea, but we'll leave that alone.
Well, and so there's a way that if you can watch a Kim Kardashian, make $1 million off clicks on Instagram, then there's a way that you feel like you can attain that. But if you're not Kim Kardashian, you're 9 times out of 10 not going to. And so where does that now leave you? Are you willing to do the work and find out your own value and find out the things that you love and find out the things that grow you as a human being in order to earn money? Or are you going to seek the easiest route? Are you going to show a breast or a leg? Or are you going to not try and educate yourself along with playing the basketball or along with rapping? And so there's a way that what we tune into can be a lie. Now we have to sift, but there is stuff out there that does have value. We were talking about Regina King today, myself and my wife. If you look at Regina King's roles, there's a way that every single one of them has some level of depth to it. If you haven't seen 7 Seconds, please watch it. It's a Netflix series where there's a young man who's murdered by police officers, and she plays the mom of the son that was murdered. And there are some moments in there that literally reach into your chest, and that you can't do that without taking what you do seriously. You can't do that and be, I'm sorry, I keep bringing her up, but be a Kim Kardashian. There are things that you have to look beyond just what's surface and get into the depths of what is important and how we're going to move our society forward if you're going to depict anything that changes people and moves people. Because entertainment essentially is about learning. It's about, or it should be, I'm sorry. It should be about thought and putting something together where people have to navigate a road that is different from themselves and that takes them outside of themselves and go, oh, somebody else is dealing with a life like this. Somebody else is dealing with this struggle. How can I, help this person? Because if it's based in some type of reality, you've seen that person in reality.
Yes.
And if it's based in truth, as you say, then there's a way that you have to approach it that requires that you reach deeper, that requires that you move forward. And so entertainment is at the surface right now. It feels like it's literally about clicks. It's literally about how can I get this person to my page? What can I do in order to, be the funniest in this moment or do something weird and
make the most money. And make the most money.
Absolutely. And make the most money. And so when all of those aspects are not taken in the context in which a whole human being
Good message.
should be drawn to, then everything then becomes surface. And there's no way for us then to learn anything from that. And so that's when we have the VH1 people fighting and turning over tables.
Because you done named the network and everything.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
We have a couple questions. Yolanda, if you get questions, just let us know.
Okay.
I'm going to let you know that we're going to
I think we covered the negative aspect, and it's true. What we see is what will be. We know that from there are marketing firms that are paid millions of dollars to influence minds. If you want to buy alcohol, you can be younger, faster, have a better time. We know it influences us. And so when we're watching TV, we're having a generation that doesn't even want to get married anymore. Because they don't see it, or they see people fighting. Why would I sign up to get child support and alimony and break the kids up? I'm good. But there's some examples. I can think of 3 offhand where there are people who are conscious, who are purposely trying to change the narrative of what people see. One is Queen Sugar.
Yeah.
All right, so Queen Sugar is intentional characters that they want people to see. It's on the OWN network. If you haven't seen Queen Sugar, you need to watch it. You'll see characters. You'll see mentoring of an older male to a younger male. You'll see the same issues. You'll see them standing together in the midst of a lot of turmoil. So Queen Sugar is one. Another one is Everybody Hates Chris. All right, that's the show is no longer on. Every single show, the producers will tell you they have a family dinner scene intentionally so that they can see that we need to get back to having family dinner again. These are people that are conscious. Third one is Blackish. All right, intentional in we're going to have this family that has 2 upwardly mobile parents, something you don't see since the Cosby Show, that has a family that is connected with issues, and we're trying to work it out.
Yeah.
All right, so all 3 of those shows is intentional. The creators, the producers, the creators of those shows are all intentional in showing you we must fight back and show people what family is all about. But there's this one called Soul City no one's ever heard of. All right, it comes out of Africa. All right, I think the doctor's name is Dr. Japhet, Japhet. And what he does is he uses multimedia to change people's perspective intentionally. So it's edutainment. All right? So what he wanted to do is he wanted to change how people saw domestic violence in certain African cultures. Okay? And where it's kind of like, shh, hush, don't tell, mind your business. That was the culture in this particular country. All right? I need to find out which one. I don't want to say which one. But you can look that up in a book called Influencers. And anyway, there was a culture of that's not your business. It's wrong, but you don't talk about your neighbor's business. That's taboo. Well, they made the show. It's called Soul City. Everyone's interested. Everyone's identifies with this male. He comes in, and then one day they show him where he's put his hands on his wife, and then they shift to really understanding the plight of the wife. All right? And so people are watching, they're like, she's a really nice woman. Why would he do that to her? All right? And then in the scene, the neighbors are knowing what's going on, and they're not interceding. And then finally, a neighbor hears, and she can't take it anymore. He can't take it anymore. And they go outside, and they ring these pots. And letting everyone know, we know what's going on. All right? We know what's going on. Sending a sign, it's not okay to do this. We're not going to intrude in your house, but we're going to let you know that we know that you are engaging in domestic violence. And said right then and there was a culture shift, and people started reporting domestic violence more than ever. It was intentional. It was studied. So it's like and then men started reporting to the domestic violence training classes. Anger management started because they were like, oh my God, that's me. At first they liked him. He's macho. And they said, oh my goodness, I'm doing that to my wife. It was awakened, and the people don't like it. And so I think that if we are going to be creators, never before have we been able to entertain the same way as networks. Yeah. We're entertaining right now on Facebook. She's entertaining right here. Anyone that wants to do a clip or a video, YouTube, we can influence minds. We don't need anyone to sign off. We just need to understand the marketing, understand how to get followers, get people watching what we're doing, and then we can influence, and then the networks will come to us. Companies will come to you saying, can I fund what you're doing? Because you have this population, I'm going to get more bang for my buck on your social media than I would throwing out this money on the radio, not knowing who my people are. Yeah. So I think that if we're talking about changing the narrative, we have to be intentional about creating programming, songs, and making it really good. Songs with amazing beats. Amazing beats.
Right.
No one wants to hear up with hope, down with dope. No one wants to hear that, you know. All right, make it funky, you know. I also have a show because I remember talking to India Kenny Stearns from the OWN Network before.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she says, you know, we put shows on there that were positive. No one watched them. All right, but how many of y'all watch X, Y, and Z? How many of y'all watch Housewives of Atlanta? Everyone's hand, when including mine, I was like, Nene Leakes is beast. All right, we will watch. If we set our hair on fire, we'll watch. They know that. Why can't we do that and also resolve family issues?
Yes.
That's what Blackish does. That's what Everybody Hates Chris does. And that's what Queen Sugar. So we now have a model that works. You do need drama. We want to watch drama.
Yes.
Okay? But it needs to be around the family winning and how they work through it. Because if we don't show people how to do family, then we're going to lose an entire generation. How does a father, I'm going to wrap up, how does a father reclaim his relationship with his son or daughter? How does he do it? He messed up. How does he do it? All right. What's the other side that's not seen? What did the courts do to this guy that tried to get in? What are the public policy laws if a man tries to live, you know, with the mother of his children? They kick the family off of government support. Let something be controversial that everyone can see and then show that family winning.
Yes.
Then people are inspired. That's modern day evangelism to me when it comes to us rebuilding the family. We have to be intentional, and I think we can use entertainment intentionally to capture and let people see things getting better.
And I like how you said that because I know India myself, we've had a few conversations. And, you know, there was a show that I was supposed to go on. It was a talk show. I was getting fathers. We were going to fly out to LA. And it shifted the week before because they got a call downstairs, from upstairs, downstairs, saying, you're making people cry too much. You need to change the narrative. And now his show is no longer on because then he started doing the same stuff everybody else did. And he no longer operated in his anointing because of one call from upstairs. And that's the problem, because even when I think about growing up in the, I'm about to tell our age, 80s and 90s, we had The Cosby Show, we had Full House, we had Different World, we had Love and Marriage. You know they hated each other, but at the end, what did they do? Right. They loved on each other. Right. The Bundys were dysfunctional at its best. Right. But we loved watching it because at the end, they came back full circle.
That's true. And
they loved each other. Like you said, what was the one you just was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They've taken in this son, this nephew. Yeah. We had more family shows, and they weren't all focused on, you know, one culture or another. We watched all of those shows, whether we fit the identity of the show or not, because we loved them. And they were all surrounded by the idea of family.
Dallas.
Oh, so you telling your mama's age now, yeah. Brady Bunch.
Alvin, Chris, Simon.
We had all of those shows, and now we don't have those. So I want to ask this question that Michael, because he's throwing some things on, and Michael asked, I got to go back to his original question because he's talking some more. He said, all children are aspiring to do is what they see. How do we help them combat or overlook things negatively portrayed?
Well, I think the first thing we do is we lead by example.
Yes.
All right? That's what I always try to do, not just with, I feel like I am a biological mother to 2, but I feel like I can be a mother to so many. And so what I try to do is lead by example daily. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not fun, too. You know, I might turn up a little bit as well. I do. And I want to say also with entertainment, I'm not saying that all that stuff is bad. I'm just saying there's no diversity.
No.
Yeah.
And so I love the intentional entertainment. You know, 1,000 ideas popped up. I'm probably about to trademark that. Who knows? But I think that what we can do is lead by example. And also, when we see young people who are doing something positive, kind of shine a light on them. I don't think that people who are doing positive and productive things get enough recognition. And so when I see young people doing something that's viable, that could actually make a younger kid look up and say, hey, I want to do that, I try to just blast it as much as I can. I'm just one person. But I first try to lead by example, and then I like to celebrate youth who are doing positive things. And there are a lot of young people who, now that both of my daughters have graduated from college, praise God, some of their friends haven't finished, but, I talk to them too, and I say, you know what? It doesn't matter if you get your degree in 4 years. It's okay if you get it in 5, and if it takes you 6, or if you have to stop and work for 2 and go back and get it, just get it. And then let's map out your plans from there. I will sit with a young person. I'm still very much involved with my oldest stepson and his career goals. He's 29. I've been divorced 9 years or so. But you know what I'm saying? I still deposit into him because I see value. I see that, he may have, gotten off task. But, first of all, there's forgiveness. When you do something wrong, you get off task. I forgive and I love unconditionally for this young man, and I try to guide him. And now he's back in school at 29. But it's all good because, he went for 6 years and didn't get that degree, but he'll get it in about a year. And whatever he needs for me to help him do it, I'm going to do it. Yeah.
One of the things that I've always told my son, because I realize that a lot of young people don't have amazing examples, or people that are close to them that can kind of pull them up. What I tell my son is you can learn what to do from a person, and you can also learn what not to do from a person. And so you can recognize, when an individual are doing things and the outcome is horrendous. And so if you don't want that outcome for yourself, you have a choice to make. And so I do find myself trying to assist the younger generation in kind of talking to younger men who I feel like aren't necessarily on the right path or have the best direction. But one thing I don't do is try to say that I have all the answers. Because I think that's another thing where, as adults, there's a way that we kind of want to be able to, do this thing where we're like, well, I've had this experience, so their experience is not your experience. Life has changed. Things have moved on. And so what you do want to do is kind of have a conversation with them and find out what their goals are, what their dreams are, what they would really like to be, and also find out the practical side.
Yes.
Have the discussion where, well, how are you going to make that, how are you going to monetize that? Or how is that going to be able to feed you and your family if that's what you want out of life? Because one of the things my son always says is that he wants to be a game designer. I said, well, what are the aspects of game design? What are the things that then, what are the jobs that make up game designing? And so he couldn't tell me what they were. And so I made him put together a list of all of the different aspects of game design. And I said, okay, well, which thing works for you? And so in that way, it made him look at his dream and be able to look at the practical side of things. Because I think that's also one of the difficult parts of living this life. We have to find a way to be able to feed ourselves, to be able to, find that direction and maintain that fortitude when the thing that we want isn't as simple as kind of showing up and getting it.
Yeah,
So.
and it's funny because a lot of people, are looking at the quick reality side of things. I remember seeing a TV show and they had one of the reality stars on there. And she wanted to change, but her struggle was, my paycheck comes from me throwing drinks on chicks. So how do I change that and be the positive one on the show in order to change the narrative of who people think I am? Because that's not really who she was in real life, and people dealt with her in real life as she was on that show.
I don't know who it is, and I don't need to know, but I think that's a cop-out. No disrespect.
He's whispering the name.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, you know you have influence, and you have an opportunity to transform, to show people I'm no longer like that. That is a choice.
Yes.
And I'm not judging that particular person. I mean, we all can say it's easy until we get a couple meals every week, and then, okay, all right? So to each, his or her own. But I think that I saw, what's the woman from, who does Bonnet Chronicles?
That's what I'm talking about.
So she went and did Bonnet Chronicles, and now has a show simply giving advice from a funny perspective. So she actually did reinvent herself, and she actually is more popular now than she was when than Tammy Roman was before. Okay? So you can do it. It's really about influence. And I think that one of the things that we have to take inventory of, we can say what we want to say, but until we get our numbers up, our influence, our followers up, we do not have enough power to influence. Okay? So we have to have the same strategy for how to get more followers, how to get more YouTube views, how to get people watching, because you can be the smartest person with the best solution that no one's ever heard of. And that's what we have to step out of, and we have to go full bore with the marketing and say, I have something that people need, and I'm going to have to market this the same way they do alcohol. Meaning, I'm going to have to pick the things that are necessary to resonate with people to get them to come to see me in a positive way. But to answer the question, one of the things I see with a lot of kids and a lot of adults is helping them change the narrative when it comes to getting over dad not being in their life. All right. So when they ask a question, they'll say, I'm trying to figure out what I did to cause my dad not to call me on my birthday. What I did that would make my dad not come around. What I did that will cause my dad to raise this other woman's children, his half-siblings. He's the bonus dad, but he doesn't check on me, and I'm his blood. What did I do? And then that's why I say, why would you ask a question that you, one, don't want the answer to, okay? And then two, it's a false narrative.
Yes.
The question should be, what is wrong with you, Dad, to where you were not involved in my life?
Yes.
All right? And people don't ask the right question. And so that's where we're getting a lot of low self-concept from. Where do you get your self-esteem and your concept and who you are? You get it from your parents, primarily. And if your parent is saying, I don't value you enough to come around, and we're thinking, what is wrong with me? Because that's human nature, you know? If Beyonce breaks up with me, I'm going to say, well, what did I do wrong? She might be crazy, you know? Yeah. But that's human nature trying to control things, to trying to figure out what's going on. And so we have an entire population of children and adults still asking the wrong question. And so one of the things that I do is help them understand that you're going to have to sit down and talk with your father, your mother, even if you don't have access to them, if they're not here anymore, you're going to write a letter and say what was going on with you. Because once I divorce myself from you rejecting me, then I can have my truth. Then I can have a real life. I can say, when someone asks you, tell me about your dad growing up, my dad was a very flawed dad. He might have been a good man, but as a dad, he got an F. And I'm an A, but my dad was an F. And so I had to find other men like former President Barack Obama, like Kevin Durant, like LeBron James, like Oprah Winfrey, like Tyler Perry. I have to go find other people to father and mother me, like Keisha Cole, okay? You know it's Frankie, okay? I'm just saying. I have to be able to realize she has limitations, but your limitations and your rejection of me is not who I am. That's your stuff. That might be multi-generational, but your rejection of me is not part of my self-concept. Because as I wrap up, we don't correct that self-concept. We take it into our relationships where we say, it's all about you, not about me. As long as you're good, I'm good. And so you settle for the crumbs instead of having a seat at the table. And you cycle through a series of relationships to where you're never equal ground. But you advertise that. Because what do helpers do? They attract the help. What do selfless people attract? Selfish people. What do healers attract? People that need to be healed. We all understand that, all right? And so where does that come from? Because you learned the best way I can get attention is be helpful.
Yeah.
Don't worry about you watch your brothers and sisters. Now, If you have an opinion, I'll give it to you. Children are supposed to be seen, not heard. Or you grow up realizing that my birthday's really not special. It's not. Or I got abused and I told and everyone act like it was okay. Or they defended the man or the woman because they don't want to break the family apart or lose the paycheck. So I learned early on that how I feel about myself it doesn't matter. I'm a secondhand citizen. And so I take that into my relationships and they fail. So to fight that, we have to divorce ourselves from our traumas. All right? Your dad is flawed. Maybe be a great man, terrible dad. All you have to do as a dad is show up. Dishwashers wash dishes. You shine shoes, you shine shoes. You teach, a teacher teaches. A dad is present. Even if you didn't understand, you can get there and ask questions. So we have to understand and have that appropriate anger, that necessary anger to say something's wrong with you, not with me.
I love that message because you said a couple of things in there that really resonated with me. Because how I found my father was I wrote a letter to my mother. And writing that letter to my mother wasn't easy, but I needed to know for me. And I divorced the mother-daughter moment. I need to talk to you woman to woman about what took place and who is he. And the easiest way for me to do that was in a letter. I happened to live in London, England at the time and mailed it. So I knew it was going to take a little time to get there. Because I wasn't totally ready for the response, I don't think. But that's when I got my answer. And it led me to the man who was actually my father. And I had a friend who was on my Facebook Live last night, and she said that she approached her mother 2 weeks ago and said, Mom, I forgive you for not being the best mom. I know it wasn't your fault, and I get that, and I'm letting you go, and you can be free of any guilt that you have associated with that. Right. And then she said she's calling her dad, and so I asked her on the Instagram or the Facebook Live last night. I said, when are you calling your dad? She said Monday. And so she's going to have that same conversation with her dad, who is a pastor, who has rejected her, told her and her mother to her face that he did not believe she's his. And she has now gone through a divorce and all these different things. But she just realized 2 weeks ago that that was what was penetrating her and even caused her divorce. And she cried for hours just this past week. I've known this young lady 16 years. And to hear her say that was so powerful to me. It was so powerful to me because we don't realize how much this is impacting our day-to-day life. We have great careers, we have great friends around us, and they help us, unfortunately, bury the trauma that we have. Because we can go back into the house, close the door, and no one ever knows that we cry at night because we're single. I remember when I first got married, I would have things going on, and I'd go into the bathroom, and my husband would be knocking on the door, what's going on, you okay? And I'm like, oh! Because I'm so used to being single, closing that door where no one can see what I'm going through. And so I'm going to ask this last question, and then we're going to allow the audience here to ask a couple questions. How do you feel like we have shaped the millennials to view family? Look at everybody's face. Let's give it in 60 seconds so we can get the crowd.
I wanted to kind of just finish up that last question, though. In terms of what we tell kids to do, I think one of the things, or one of the major things we need to do is tell them to stay busy doing good. Because if you stay busy doing good, then you have no time to kind of, woe is me. And those times when you're woe is me is when you find yourself going deeper and deeper down that rabbit hole that you don't need to go. All right? But in terms of the millennials,
that's like a cuss word to
everybody
who's not, right? It's hilarious.
Sometimes it is.
They're just different.
Yeah, they are.
Well, I mean, I think that they have learned I wouldn't say from us, but I think that they have learned that stereotypes don't help move society forward. And so I think they are making some different decisions. I don't think that they're always, quote unquote, I don't want to sound judgmental. I don't think that those decisions always move society forward. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
Because part of it is that there is a generation, it feels like it's the kind of me generation, in the sense that family is not important, but it's also what examples were set for you. They kind of put that into play. And so I always ask my son, like, what do you want for yourself? Like, what's the penultimate goal? Like,
Right,
what's
because
the,
you have a millennial.
yeah, you know what I mean? And so what is the dream? And he, my story is different. So there was a previous relationship from which my son came. And so in terms of that, we were together for 13 years, and I've since remarried and now have a wonderful wife. And she and my son have an amazing relationship. And so what he has learned from that is that he still wants to get married. He still wants to get married and have kids. And so I think that because he's able to see an example of people being able to move forward in spite of having fallen down.
Yes.
I think that allows him to make a decision that, okay, I'm going to try this. I want this for my life. I want to be able to raise a family. I want to have a wife. I want to be able to have a household. And so a lot of millennials, I don't want to speak for them, but the sense that I get is that there is this individual joy that they are seeking. There's this kind of, well, I don't know that it's instant gratification. I think it's more or less all self-important rather than group importance, rather than family importance, rather than moving things forward. And so, again, it's hard for me to kind of speak for them.
But I want you to speak from your experience with and I'm gonna give you 30 more seconds.
Okay.
I'll break this a little
And
bit.
so he gives me hope. And so when it comes to the things that they do see, I do see that they have a mentality that's live and let live.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I believe that's going to move our whole, society forward, because they're so much less judgmental than past generations. And so my hope is that from that less judgmental space, we now find a new way to love and a new way to listen.
You got some positive. You gave some
Yes.
positive. So often we give
Right.
negative things for the millennials. So I appreciate that. I do.
I actually had something positive about millennials too, because I feel like, my daughters at 21 and 23, they feel like millennials to me, and they're game changers. Meaning that I said something to my oldest daughter yesterday. She said, you know what, Mom, that's so old school, and I respect that, but there's another way. And it just was like, whoa. Because, I had to pause for a minute, and my oldest daughter, I swear she's reincarnated because she has such wisdom. And she says things like that all the time, like, I know that's the way that you used to do it, but if you do it this way, this is what happens. She's very good with, like, common sense things. And I just feel like they're game changers because they don't have some of the same preconceived notions that we had. They're not in a box. They think outside the box so much. There's no box. And so I just feel like they're game changers, and what I try to instill in them is find out what you're passionate about and monetize it. And I said that like 10 years ago, and they're both moving aggressively in that direction. And so I think they're game changers, and the things that we did before, I think we can learn from them because they're doing it in an entirely different way. And that's what I think about the millennials.
All right. So I'm gonna give you like 90
No, I
seconds.
get, I'm
wanna make
honored,
sure we
honored
get-
you even raised your hand. You didn't even cut me off.
Gotta wrap it up.
You know?
I'm not gonna cut you.
I think I do a lot of preaching for our millennial ministry at our church. And if I could characterize them, they want to know why. Just because you say it, why? Break it down. So I think what we have to do is we have to teach them how to do relationships. We have to teach them how. A to B. The psychologists are being encouraged to do relationship counseling. Not just marital counseling, not premarital counseling, relationship counseling at a very early age, starting even in high school, because kids are dating and they don't know how to do it. So we have to show them how to date. We have to show them how to do family. Yeah. I think since we're talking about fathers, I think men, we have to sit down with a variety of men, not just I have 2 daughters, not just our sons. We have to sit down and say, have more panels, more classes, more workshops that are interactive, and say, let me tell you about how to lead a family. All right, let me talk to you about increasing your carrying capacity. Like, what is that? Your ability to carry your wife's emotions without you storming. That's strength. All right? If your wife storms and you storm with her, where's the leadership? Yeah. All right? So, brother, you're going to need to do yoga. You're going to need to pray. You're going to need to do fast. You're going to need to do everything to be able to improve your ability to be a good husband, a good father, a good leader at work. We know that millennials are not really being developed in their soft skills, in the personal skills. Well, they don't need them on the internet. And I can get 1,000 friends just putting a post saying I look cute, So I think that we have to do is do more teaching. Millennials need more mentoring, and then we have to listen to what they're saying, because their viewpoint, right? They don't just take what people say. No, they want to say that does not work for me. So I think that if we have a better relationship, because almost as we say millennials, it's like, oh, they're different from us. But if we were raised in a generation, we do the same thing. Yeah. Okay? So it's more mentoring and explaining why and how through the media, through workshops, so that they can be better in all aspects of their life and allowing them to influence us as well.
Okay. So we're close on time. What time is this? 10 till 9. Okay. So I'll give 2 people an opportunity to ask a question. If you have any on your social media there, Yolanda, let me know.
I do.
Okay. Lenoris. Okay, so I need to give this introduction. I do. This is one of my fantastic fathers that we have helped him get primary custody of his son. Yeah. We got one more here, and it's tough, but it's okay. You got to stand up, come to the middle, and ask this question. And you look less stressed. Look how much weight you lost. I'm calling you out. You look amazing. See, he's not as stressed because he was fighting. You know what I'm saying? When you fight, it's a different look.
Fight shape.
Yes. So go ahead, Lenore.
First of all, thank you all for doing this, because I feel like that's the reason why a lot of fathers don't fight, because they don't have that support system behind them in order to motivate them to fight. And Dr. Barton has been there for me. She has created so many avenues for me to fight for custody of my son. To give a little brief, I understood everything you all was saying about reality TV and how back in the days, we had the Huxtables, we had all these families to look up to, but nowadays we don't have that on reality TV. Also, another thing that we don't have on reality TV is that it does not show us that when a father fights for their child, a lot of millionaires get custody because they have the money. But what about those fathers who are living on a fixed income, don't have that much money to fight and keep continually to fight for their child? Yeah. And then when we don't win, or when we have to back away because we're saying, this is my last dime, I don't have anything else. I did my very best to fight for my son, but then we are labeled because we didn't do enough. Or, you weren't there when he needed this or when he needed that. But I was fighting, but I had nothing left. I had nothing left to continue the fight. But and another stigma that I think that we need to reinvent, if you will, is the fact, how a lot of people say daughters marry someone like their father and sons marry someone like their mother. Well, I tried that. I came from a household, single mom, 4 kids. She was abusive, ended up getting adopted. That mother was abusive. So I never had a mother figure. Even though they were there, they were present, but I never felt that love. And so, and my biological father was never there. I didn't meet him till I was 16. Then when I joined the military, he saw everything going good with me and wanted to reach out to me for money, for me to support him because he's my dad. And so, to make a long story short, you know, I married for the wrong reasons because I wanted to make my adopted mother happy. I wanted her to be proud of me. I married somebody who has the same teaching credentials as you. I married somebody who talks like you, who imitates you. Y'all were alike. So I was happy about that, thinking that I finally did something right, when in actuality I didn't. So then my son suffered because we had a son together, and I've been fighting for custody of my son since he was 6 months, and he's almost 4 now. And as Dr. Barton said, we're going through the last process, and I am claiming victory because I do believe that, you know, when you do what's required of you to do as a man, and you put your best foot forth, and it's not because you're being vindictive or because you want to get back at her because of what she took you through when you didn't have the money to pay child support and she went down there and did this and that against you. No, it's because you're thinking about the best interest of your child.
Yes.
And so, even with all that, I guess my question would be, you know, on reality TV, you see, I think it was Nelly, he had a reality TV where he had all his kids living with him, he had custody of them, and a few other more superstars who have custody. How do you get past that with the courts? When you don't have the money, when you don't have as much time, when you don't have everything that you need, and it's in black and white. If you read it, you know that you should have custody, regardless of what. You have a past, never been arrested, never had been in any kind of trouble of that nature. But the case should be yours. But you're still going through the process because they believe a child should be with the mother only.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. I think that's the perfect person to ask the question.
All right, well, first of all, thank you for the question. And even though I have represented some of these millionaires and I've probably got them custody, there are more men that I've gotten custody for that are middle class, regular, everyday guys. And so custody is a thing that you have your statutes, which spells out in black and white what the law says. Then you have case law, which shows you on an appellate level how facts were applied to those statutes, and that makes law too. But let me just tell you how I do it when gentlemen come into my office, because the facts are really going to be the difference in your case. If I'll give you a couple of scenarios. Let's say you have a child with someone, you guys are not married, you break up, she's mad because now, let's say when you break up, she's letting you see your child, but then now you've moved on and you're in a new relationship, and she's hot. Mm-hmm. Oh no, you didn't. And so now you can't see your son, right? So before, you didn't even know there was a such thing as legitimation, because she was letting you see the child whenever you wanted. But here in Georgia, the Bible Belt, you have to go file a petition to legitimate. But what I try to tell people is, judges do have their biases. Everybody brings with them in every situation their personal experience. You can't change that. But what you got to bring to the table are some facts. What is your history of making your parenting attempts, okay? Because what people come in there and they say, well, I called her. I can't show that to a court because it's your word against hers. Sometimes we don't even file the case until I build up some facts. Okay, facts. Did you email her and say, I want to come to this? Did you email her and say, what's my baby's pediatrician? She will respond, well, you didn't want to know before. Well, I'm a better man now, and I want to know now. Can I come to the doctor's appointment? Can I this? And don't just do it before we file the case. Let's build a history. One thing about litigation in a domestic standpoint is, unlike any other litigation, the facts of the case continue as the case is ongoing. So you build a repertoire of your parenting attempts. She's gonna look crazy once we pull out that statute, right? And you know what else? People think, well, I got my new wife that can help me. That's not a bad thing. If you read the statute, they want to know what support do you have in your parenting. People are so backwards on what they think the law is, you know. So you've got to, you know, if you had that parenting time and then it was stripped away, you've got to be able to show an email, a text message, your attempt to go to the school. A lot of these women will go and not even list the dad at the school as a parent. They'll have down their mother, their Pookie, they'll have down their neighbor, in case of emergency, call my neighbor. And the child has a dad. Dad's not even, it's like the child was made with one person, like a test tube baby and a sperm donor. There's no dad listed. And a lot of these women do this because they're angry. Now, I'm not saying all women are angry, but I've seen a lot of angry women because I represent probably 80% men. Why these women do this, they're not thinking about the fact of what is going to happen to this child because of what you're doing right now. What kind of person is that child going to develop into if you are successful in keeping the father out of the child's life? You know, but that's a fight that, you know, I work with people, everybody I represent is not a millionaire. I have represented millionaires, and so people think everybody's one, but no. 90% of my male clients are guys who go to work every day. They want to come home and just be involved. And so what you've got to do is build your facts. Yeah. Build your facts before you file your case. Continue to build your facts as you're going on. And, you know, and there's some other things that you can do. You know, there's a certain skill set. Now, if you can't afford a lawyer, because I hear that a lot of times, well, I can't afford a lawyer. Well, you know, let's say you can't afford me. Scrape up enough maybe to come get that consultation. And then you can tell me, you know, I can't retain you though. And then I'll say, well, you know what, here's some things you can do, and I'm gonna give you a list. I'm gonna give you some homework. I'm gonna give you some assignments. Because you have got to have a paper trail. You can't go up in court with, oh, I told her. And no, you have got to have text messages, emails. You showed up somewhere, and any chance you get to take a picture with your kid, you take all those pictures. Yes. When I go to court, Exhibit 1 is a photo book. I'm telling you, I'm like, we might start off, like I might start off with a case where I got a guy in custody. We might start off with this guy's got 2 hours on Tuesday and 2 hours on Thursday. Be consistent. You can't come up in the court talking about you want joint custody in this, and here you are awarded every other weekend, and you're going every other 10th weekend. You've got to be consistent. Adjust your schedule so your boss knows every other Friday I got to get off early because I pick up my son directly from school. Yes. If you got a little bit, be consistent with that. That's how you get more. You can't say, well, I'm mad I didn't get what I want, so therefore I'm not going to exercise this parenting time. You look crazy to the judge. Here's another thing that judges don't like. I can give you that too. They don't like inconsistency, but they don't like the guy who gives up. Oh, she made it too hard for me, so I didn't see my kid for 18 months. I didn't see my kid for 2 years because I didn't want to fool with her. No, you didn't want to be a daddy. Because sometimes being a daddy isn't easy. Sometimes being a daddy is hard. Sometimes you got to fight to be a daddy. And so if that means every other weekend when it's your time and you say to that girl, well, hey, I'm coming to get my son, and she says no, document it. All right, we're not going to go into court with just 2 times you missed. No, we got a history. I got 6 months of her refusing or giving it to you. She lets you see your kid 1 time in 6 months. But we've got a history of you going. Some counties, the police will make a police report that you came there to visit and she denied it. Depending on the county and the level of sophistication of the officer, because they know criminal law, not civil law, FYI.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give you 30 more seconds.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's just some documentation and build the case. The facts are what win these cases. The the facts.
I know, Wendell, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I can't. No. Because we got to wrap it up.
Okay.
But Yolanda has a question from social media over there.
Well, most of the questions are about listening to the kids. There were some about we keep trying to tell the kids what they need to think, what they need to be, and we're not listening to them, and they feel like that's where millennials are. They, like you said, they just want to be heard and validated to that. And then the ask, that was a really big thing. I got a lot of response, and people started coming in because people. And one of the things when we did the shows on being fatherless, about people don't go. They carry around this grudge and this hurt, but they never went back and asked the parents, why was that my situation? So why, again, is the ask so hard for us in dealing with fatherhood?
I think part of the issue is when the why is dealing with hurt. And so when you have to unfold and kind of, find that space, because we also have to give that person the space to respond. And so in giving that person the space to respond, you may hear some things that you don't want to hear. And so again, we learn what to do and what not to do when it comes to how we deal with situations. So if you don't like what your dad says, don't be him. If you don't like what your mom says, don't be her. The most important part of this equation is you. Find your joy and what makes you happy and how you want, and find the space to dig deep and find out what you want to put into the world. And I know I got 2 seconds. Okay, but so I'm working on a documentary called Be Dead Dads, which actually speaks to low-income fathers navigating the court system to get custody of their kids. There's an organization called We Are Parents. His name is Keno Stephenson, and he actually helps fathers navigate the family court enforcement, child support enforcement, system, and he also helps you navigate ways in order to access your children. Also, Dr. Tori Evans-Martin, the Fatherless Generation Foundation. Now,
because I do more than navigation. He has an attorney, is a bomb attorney.
So there are organizations that are out there that do help. And there's another one called the Children's Law Center. And so they're actually based out of Washington, D.C., but what they can do is put you in contact with your local. So again, that is to kind of answer the question about, low-income dads and finding ways around that. Sorry.
You're fine. I want to wrap this up because we're done at 9. I know we had to get people shifted from different locations, but I'm glad that we were here. We're going to sign off, but I want you guys to make it to the Laudermilk Center tomorrow. It is important and vital that you're here. We're just starting the conversation. These are just some of the issues, and we're bringing a few of the solutions to the table tonight. But all this weekend, starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, my team, we have put together a bomb lineup, just like these awesome panelists. We have Dr. Aldewan Tart. What is your hash, or his social media is at Dr. Tart.
At Dr. Tart.
At Dr. Tart.
So DRTARTT.
So go on to Instagram. You can find them there. Wendell, what's your
I'm at legacymedia.llc.
Okay. And I am at TMGESQ.
Yes, TMG, Tanya Mitchell Graham, Esquire, TMGESQ. All right, we're going to wrap it up. I thank you guys for tuning in. I thank Dryer Buzz for being our buzz here for our social media.
Just talk a little bit about your lineup tomorrow.
Okay, so the lineup tomorrow is myself. I am starting the conference off. I said I would start it and finish it. And I've never spoken in Atlanta. I speak all over the country, so this is the first time I will be speaking in Atlanta. So I will start it tomorrow. Then we have Spit and Anger. It's a documentary that is going to show you Kenneth Braswell of Fathers Incorporated. He has gone through a process himself of forgiving his father. And what I love about this documentary is he didn't know he was walking in unforgiveness. But the person who produced it, you hear him asking him questions. And it gets really intense as he's asking him questions because he never wanted to be the one on camera. Okay, so you get to see this person on camera working through and realizing his daddy issues even on camera. And you'll get to see how those things will resolve. And from there, he's going to have a discussion. And then tomorrow afternoon, after he is done, we have Dina Babel, who is going to come. She is she does Fatherless Daughters. She wrote an awesome book, and they have toured the country with this book. What I love, I'm telling you guys, I brought people who were fatherless, who overcame their struggles. And I want to bring people who just got philosophies and, they just got ideas and they've never been through it. And that's what you're going to see tomorrow. And then Saturday, you're going to hear from this man, Dr. Aldewan Tart, starting off on Saturday. Then you have John Finch, internationally known, renowned speaker, The Father Effect. He's going to show you the Father Effect and have a profound discussion with you, life-changing, life-altering discussion with you. We go from there to Dr. Sanja Stribling. She's going to show you some relationship tips. And then I end the afternoon with you, and I'm going to talk about the voice of the Father. And that's what we're going to wrap it up. So I thank you guys for tuning in. I know there was many more on here, and I know Yolanda had quite a few over there. So we are grateful for you guys coming on, and we thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.